For PokerGaming.com, this is James Gwill. After 6 weeks of play, the 2010 World Series of Poker Main Event kicked off on Monday, July the 5th at the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. This $10,000 buy-in, no-limit Holdem World Championship had 4 starting days, and thousands of players turned out on each day to take their shot at what turned out to be a prize pool of nearly $9 million. The first of the day ones drew 1,125 players out, and by the end of the day, Michael Mizrachi was second in chips with 142,000. Mizrachi still has a shot at Player of the Year, but only if he can win the main event. Day 1B drew a crowd of 1,489 players, and they were all looking, obviously, to make their way to Day 2B play. Both Jason DeWitt and Phil Galfond moved on to Day 2B among the top 10 in chips, with both over 140,000 in chips. Day 1C was much more of an upbeat affair, and it was more of a circus-style atmosphere, as a lot of the big names decided to come out on that day. This was the day that Phil Hellmuth decided to come in his customary grand spectacle entrance, and he was joined by Bruce Buffer of the UFC, who announced Hellmuth's entrance as Hellmuth came in dressed as a UFC fighter. Day 1C drew a crowd of 2,314 players, which was up from 1,696 the prior year. Johnny Chan surprised a lot of people in this field as he moved on to Day 2 in this event with 163,700 in chips. Day 1D was when we finally found out what the total number of players were for this event. In all, 7,319 players turned out for this main event, making it the second largest in the history of the World Series of Poker. 747 players made the money in the event, and the winner of this event will eventually take home a top prize of $8,944,138. By the end of Day 1D, several big names were at the top of the leaderboard, including Steve Bilirakis, who was a chip leader with 187,150. Archie Karras had 137,000, David Benjamin with 133,000, and Vanessa Russo finished with 111,000 in chips. Day 2 was split up over 2 days, and the first half came out on Day 2A with 2,412 players looking to advance to Day 3 action. Cole South and Johnny Chan finished in the top 10 of chips after Day 2A, and Cole South was sitting on 304,200, with Johnny Chan sitting on 281,600. Day 2B saw a field of over 2,000 players return. The chip leader going into Day 3 play was David Asseline, who had 387,800 in chip. 2,557 players came back on Day 3, and they were now finally beginning to make the charge to the money. Johnny Chan continued his fantastic run in this event as he finished Day 3 in 9th place with 636,000 in chips. The other big story so far in the main event through Day 3 was that all 4 Mizrachi brothers were still alive in this event. Robert was leading the 4 brothers with 343,000, and they were all looking to become the first set of brothers to cash in a WSOP main event. Day 4 of this event started with 1,203 players returning and looking to finally make the money in this event. 747 players would cash in this event, and the money bubble was reached right around dinner break. However, tournament directors decided that it would be a good idea to take dinner break with just 4 players remaining to bust out before the money. Tim McDonald was the unfortunate bubble boy of this event. He moved all in on an ace-ace-deuce flop for 37,500 against Ismail Urkanov. Urkanov insta-called, and McDonald flipped over pocket queens. Urkanov was holding ace-deuce for a flopped full house. The turn fell to 7 of diamonds, and McDonald was officially drawing dead and became the bubble boy of the 2010 main event. Now, he did receive an entry into next year's WSOP main event as a consolation prize. All 4 Mizrachi brothers did actually make the money in this event, setting a WSOP record. Unfortunately, Eric Mizrachi ended up busting in 718th place for just a min cash. However, Danny, Robert, and Michael all moved on to Day 5 action to try to make their way down to the November 9. Although Tony Dunst was leading the field with 1.546 million after day 4 play. Everybody was still watching Johnny Chan, as he still had 1.159 million in chips, and this was good for 13th place overall. On day 5, we discovered who the last woman standing would be in this event. Bree Zuckerman was the last woman left in the WSOP main event, and she had just around 1 million in chips at the end of day 5. Two Mizrachi brothers managed to make it through day 5 as well. Both Michael and Eric Mizrachi finished the day. However, did a little bit of a flip-flop in chips. Michael moved up into the top 20 in chips, moving up to about 1.79 million, and Robert was on a short stack with about 270,000 in chips. Now, on the other hand, Johnny Chan finished the day 10th in chips and had 2.55 million. Day 6 saw two big stories develop. First, we lost the big story that everybody was following, and that was Johnny Chan falling in 156th place. He essentially lost a big hand with pocket kings when he ran into the pocket aces of Robert Pisano pre-flop. This left Chan crippled, and he was never able to recover. Bree Zuckerman also busted during this day and finished in 121st place. She was all in with King 10 pre-flop and ran into aces from Eric Baldwin. Michael Mizrachi ended up being the last Mizrachi standing after day 6, and he actually moved up to second in chips as he finished with 7.535 million. Theo Jorgensen was the chip leader heading into day 7 play. He started the day with 9.3 million. However, we still had several big names left, with Alex Constritson, Jean-Robert Berlan, Hassan Habib, Scott Clements, Tony Dunst, and David Benjamin all in the main event. Day 7 saw the field shrink from 78 players down to 27 as we lost Jean-Robert Belande, David Benjamin, Alex Constritson, and Tony Dunst. And Michael Mizrachi, he ended up dropping a little bit in position throughout this day. He finished the day 16th out of the last 27 players left with just about 6.825 million in chips. Joseph Chiang and Suong Nguyen were the chip leaders at the end of day 7. Chiang held 24.49 million and Nguyen had 23.1 million. Day 8 play started with 27 players looking to make their way to the November 9. Of course, the biggest name among them was Michael Mizrachi. Scott Clements, Adam Levy, and Hassan Habib all fell during day 8 play. Eventually, we reached our final table of 10 players, but it was not the official WSOP final table, also known as the November 9. Brandon Stevens was the unfortunate bubble boy for the main event, and by bubble boy meaning the November 9 bubble boy. He ran ace-king into pocket queens of Matthew Jarvis, and unfortunately, he was unable to catch an ace or king on the board. As a result, Michael Mizrachi is the headliner for this WSOP November 9 final table. Jonathan Duhamel is the chip leader going into final table play with 65,975,000 in chips. Here are your November 9 as they stand in chip counts going into final table play. Jonathan Duhamel is a chip leader with 65.975 million. John Dolan has 46.25 million. Joseph Chiang has 23,525,000. John Rassener has 19,050,000 in chips. Matthew Jarvis has 16,700,000. Filippo Candillo has 16,400,000. Michael the Grinder Mizrachi has 14.45 million. Soy Nguyen has 9.65 million, and Jason Santee is the short stack with 7.625 million. For the next 3 months, these 9 players will be the subject of numerous interviews and numerous stories being written about them by not only poker media, but also the regular media as well. These 9 will return on November the 6th to play down to the final 2 players, who will then return on the 7th and then play it out to the bracelet. On November 8th, the broadcast will be edited by ESPN, and the final table of this main event, including heads-up play, will be played on November the 9th. It's been my privilege to bring you recaps and coverage from the 2010 World Series of Poker. As always, stay tuned to PokerGaming.com as we bring you poker news, poker coverage, and in 3 months we'll bring you coverage and recaps from the 2010 World Series of Poker Main Event. Until then, this is James Gwill with PokerGaming.com.